ʻaːlea iacta est is a Latin phrase attributed by Suetonius to Julius Caesar on January 10, 49 BC as he led his army across the River Rubicon in northern Italy. With this step, he entered Italy at the head of his army in defiance of the Senate and began his long civil war against Pompey and the Optimates. The phrase is still used today in Italy to mean that events have passed a point of no return, that something inevitably will happen. Meaning in forms. The historian Francis Tichenor has given a stylized description of the context of Caesar's pronouncement. We know from Caesar's journals that Caesar is not taking this lightly. He knows that if he marches on Rome with his armies, then he is a public enemy, and that he will either have to win, or die. For a Roman patrician like Julius Caesar there is no life without military service. There is no life without service to the state. He cannot simply go native and stay in Gaul, and he does realize that if he goes back to Rome, he would be killed. At this time the northernmost border of the Roman territory in Italy is the River Rubicon. Once someone crosses the River Rubicon, he's in Roman territory. A general must not cross that boundary with his army. He must do what the Romans call lay down his command, which means surrender his right to order troops, and certainly not be carrying weapons. Caesar and his armies hesitate quite a while at this river while Caesar decides what to do, and Caesar tells us that he informs his soldiers that it's a little tiny bridge across the river, but once they cross it they'll have to fight their way all the way to Rome, and Caesar is well aware that he's risking not just his own life, but those of his loyal soldiers, and he might not win. Pompey is a formidable enemy. It's also impossible to avoid the fact that Caesar was attacking the state, and as a patrician Roman this would have been very difficult for him, equivalent to beating up your father. He wouldn't have done any of this lightly. Finally he makes a decision, it's time to go, and he uses a gambling metaphor. He says roll the dice, ʻaːlea ʻjakta est. Once the dice start rolling they cannot be controlled, even though we don't know what it is as the dice roll and tumble. Julius and his men swiftly cross the river and they march double time toward Rome, where they almost beat the messengers sent to inform the Senate of their arrival. Tichenor, to rule mankind and make the world obey. Caesar was said to have borrowed the phrase from Nanda, his favorite Greek writer of comedy. The phrase appears in oia 1/4 iii, as quoted in De Sophistae, Book 13, paragraph 8. Plutarch reports that these words were said in Greek. A 1/4 unregistered trademark II 1/2 I to the first I florin IA 1/2 paragraph I euro IA 1/2 II 1/2 II euro I plus or minus II 1/2 II plus or minus IA 1/4 II squared II registered trademark I florin I plus or minus I, a 1/4 I 1/2 I micron II per mil II squared I is, aneriptho chi bos II to the first I micron I squared. II squared I plus or minus I paragraph I micron IA 1/2 I 1/2 I florin II plus or minus I 1/2. He, Caesar declared in Greek with loud voice to those who were present let the die be cast and led the army across. Plutarch, Life of Pompey, 60.2.9. Suetonius, a contemporary of Plutarch writing in Latin, reports a similar phrase. Caesar. Iacta ʻaːlea est, inquit. Caesar said. The die has been cast. Suetonius, Vita Divi Iuli, 121 CE, paragraph 33. Lewis in short, citing Casaubon and the UHNK, suggests that the text of Suetonius should read iacta ʻaːlea esto, which they translate as let the die be cast. Or let the game be ventured. This matches Plutarch's third-person aorist imperative a 1/4 euro I 1/2 I micron I per mil I squared I. By the 1st century AD ʻaːlea refers to the early form of backgammon that was played in Caesar's time. Augustus mentions winning this game in a letter. Dice were common in Roman times, and generally known as cubus. See also, aleatoricism, point of no return, list of Latin phrases, references. External links, Divus Iulius, paragraph 32 by Suetonius, where the quote is found. Reference to Augustus playing ʻaːlea.